Shrouded beneath Missouri's rolling hills and winding rivers lies a deeper story, one etched in stone, buried in earth, and whispered through time. Strange artifacts, impossible carvings, and ancient structures appear where no record says they should be. Scientists search for answers, yet the questions only multiply. What forces shaped these mysteries, and why do they linger in silence? We step into the shadows of the unexplained, so settle in and let's uncover what history left behind. At first glance, the landscape appears quiet, an open stretch of green rising in deliberate shapes from the earth, framed by the distant hum of the Mississippi River. Yet as the morning light slides across the Cahokia Mounds, the silence takes on a weight of its own. These are not natural hills. They are monuments, precise, towering, and ancient, constructed by a people whose story is only partly understood. Cahokia once stood as the largest and most complex urban center north of Mesoamerica, flourishing between the 11th and 13th centuries. At its height, it may have rivaled the population of medieval London. Wide plazas, wooden temples, astronomical alignments, and neighborhoods of artisans and farmers stretched across nearly 6 square miles. Standing atop Monk's Mound, the largest earthen structure in the Americas, you can feel the scale of it, a city built not of stone, but of intention, community, and a worldview now lost to time. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of advanced engineering, carefully layered soil forming mound cores, wooden posts arranged to track solstices and equinoxes, remnants of trade goods from the Great Lakes to the Gulf Coast. Every shard, every post hole tells a story of sophistication. This was not an isolated people. Cahokia was connected, influential, and astonishingly organized. And yet, for all we know, the unanswered questions are what continue to define it. What compelled these ancient residents to build such massive structures? More than 100 mounds, each with a specific purpose. Why here, at this precise bend of the Mississippi? And why did the city rise so quickly, then fade just as rapidly, leaving no written record to explain its triumphs or its decline? Mainstream scholarship offers explanations. Cahokia may have been a religious capital, its leaders commanding labor through spiritual authority. Climate fluctuations, resource stress, or political upheaval could have driven its eventual abandonment. These theories are backed by evidence, and yet none fully resolve the puzzle. There are gaps, silences, and peculiarities that seem to resist easy conclusions. Consider Woodhenge, a circle of giant wooden posts aligned with the sun's movements. It served as an observatory, a ceremonial calendar, a place where dawn itself became a ritual. The concept is understood, the precision less so. How did a culture without metal tools or written mathematics achieve such meticulous alignments? What rituals unfolded there as the first light of the solstice pierced the horizon? And what meaning did these ceremonies hold for the thousands who witnessed them across generations? Then there are the more cryptic findings. Exotic materials transported across enormous distances, symbols whose meanings are debated, burials suggesting complex spiritual beliefs, including one central grave layered with shell beads arranged in the shape of a bird, perhaps a warrior, perhaps a leader, perhaps something else entirely. These discoveries inspire speculation at the edges of the historical record. Some researchers propose that Cahokia was part of a far-reaching network of ancient cultural exchange, sharing ideas with distant civilizations through migration or trade routes now forgotten. Others wonder whether its cosmology encoded astronomical knowledge more advanced than scholars currently attribute to the region. And still others suggest that natural phenomena, unpredictable floods, shifting climate patterns, or even celestial events, may have shaped both its rise and its fall in ways not yet understood. More fringe theories drift even further, proposing lost civilizations, ancient cataclysms or symbolic messages carved into the very layout of the city. These ideas stretch beyond what the evidence confirms, but they persist, in part, because Cahokia's story contains room for wonder. Its creators left behind structures that command respect and curiosity, engineered on a scale that still challenges assumption. When people look at the mounds, they see ingenuity, but they also see what is missing: the voices, the reasons, the worldview capable of shaping a landscape so profoundly. Standing on the trails that wind between the mounds, you can feel the tension between what we know and what we only guess. The ground is steady beneath your feet, yet the past feels fluid, shifting with each new excavation, each interpretation, each unanswered question. Archaeology provides pieces, science offers models, but the lived reality of Cahokia remains somewhere out of reach. And perhaps that is the true allure of this ancient city. It is a reminder that history is not a fixed narrative, but a constellation of clues. That human achievement can leave monumental footprints while withholding the story behind them. That entire civilizations can rise, create wonders, and disappear, leaving us to read their intentions through soil and silence. As the sun lowers and the shadows stretch long across the grassy mounds, the questions only deepen. What have we uncovered? What have we overlooked? And what secrets might still lie buried beneath the quiet earth, waiting for someone to ask the right question, or to listen closely enough to hear what remains untold? As we leave the silent geometry of Cahokia behind, the landscape of Missouri shifts once more, away from ancient cities and toward something even older, something carved not by human hands, but by the deep, unrelenting force of time itself. The next mystery lies in the quiet forests south of St. Louis, where the past is preserved not in earthen monuments, but in bones. Massive bones. Bones that whisper of an age when humans and giant beasts walked this land together. Here, at Mastodon State Historic Site, the forest canopy opens over a landscape shaped by ancient rivers and glacial meltwaters. Sunlight filters through the leaves, cascading across a meandering creek that once ran thicker, colder, and wilder. Along its banks, the earth still hides fragments of a world long vanished. Tusks the size of tree trunks, teeth as large as a human hand, and the fossilized remains of creatures that roamed this region more than 12,000 years ago. The discovery began in 1800, when the giant bones unearthed here caught the attention of a young America eager to understand the continent's deep history. The word Mastodon soon became linked with the state itself, marking Missouri as home to one of the earliest archaeological excavations in the United States. But as the decades passed, researchers found more than just evidence of prehistoric giants. They found something far more provocative. At the site known as Kimswick, mixed among the Mastodon remains, lay stone tools, blades, points, and worked pieces that bore unmistakable signs of skilled craftsmanship. These were not scattered randomly. Some were found in direct association with the bones, suggesting that early humans may have hunted or scavenged these massive creatures. If true, it would place people in this region thousands of years earlier than once believed. Mainstream archaeology has cautiously embraced the idea that early Paleo-Indian groups, including those associated with the Clovis culture, may have interacted with the megafauna of North America. The tools found at Mastodon State Historic Site seem to fit within that framework, hinting at a distant chapter of human history. Yet, the picture is far from complete. The soil layers are complex, sometimes disturbed, and still the debate continues. Were these early people truly present as the mastodons took their final steps? Or have the sands of time rearranged the evidence in ways we have yet to fully understand? The questions grow more intriguing when we consider the broader mystery of the mastodon extinction. Across North America, these giant creatures disappeared rapidly near the end of the last ice age. Some scientists point to climate change, warming temperatures, shifts in vegetation, and ecological upheaval as the driving force. Others suggest that overhunting by early humans played a role, a slow and steady pressure that tipped a vulnerable species toward extinction. But there are still more theories, resting at the edges of mainstream research. Some propose catastrophic events, comet impacts, sudden climate anomalies, or dramatic environmental shifts that left little time for adaptation. Others explore the possibility that diseases spread rapidly through megafauna populations, carried by changing ecosystems or expanding human groups. And then, as with many ancient mysteries, fringe interpretations step forward. A few enthusiasts wonder whether the tools found alongside the bones might belong to cultures older than the Clovis tradition, cultures that conventional timelines do not currently accommodate. Others question whether the extinction event itself might reflect a more complicated interplay of forces, perhaps involving lost migrations, unknown environmental triggers, or rapid changes in global climate patterns that we still struggle to fully reconstruct. Standing by the shallow waters of the site's creek, it's not difficult to let the mind wander. The air carries the scent of damp earth, and the woods are filled with the soft murmur of insects and distant birds. Yet beneath this peaceful scene lies a record of struggle and survival. You can imagine the heavy footfalls of mastodons moving through the valley, the crunch of vegetation under their weight, and the distant shadows of early hunters watching from the tree line. Were they desperate? Opportunistic? Curious? The tools they left behind tell us only that they were here, nothing more. Inside the visitor center, reconstructed skeletons stand in solemn silence, their curved tusks reaching upward like frozen crescents of time. Each bone is a clue, each display a reminder that our understanding, while growing, is still incomplete. Fossils, after all, cannot speak. They can only be interpreted. And interpretation leaves space. Space for debate, for disagreement, for imagination. Space where the unknown persists. The Mastodon State Historic Site is often seen as a scientific landmark, a place where archaeology and paleontology intersect. But it is also a place of quiet tension. The evidence suggests one story, the landscape hints at another, and the gaps between them remain wide enough to invite speculation. Did humans truly play a role in the extinction of the mastodon? Or did these ancient giants fall to forces far beyond human control? Were the tools at Kimswick signs of routine interaction, or rare coincidental encounters preserved by chance? And if early humans did stand face to face with mastodons in this valley, what did they see when they looked into the eyes of a creature so immense and ancient? The forest offers no answers, only atmosphere. The creek carries away the questions with the same quiet persistence that has shaped these banks for millennia. And as we move deeper into Missouri's hidden past, one thing becomes clear. For every mystery we explore, another waits just beneath the surface. Here, among the bones of giants, the past invites us to search, not for certainty, but for understanding. What else might still lie buried in this soil, waiting to be uncovered? From the bones of Ice Age giants, our path leads deeper into Missouri's past, into a place shaped not by towering beasts, but by the quiet persistence of human hands. The forests give way to rolling limestone bluffs, and there, nestled in the hillside like a mouth carved into the earth, lies Graham Cave. At first glance, it appears simple, a broad, shadowed opening framed by weathered rock and moss. But step closer, and the air cools. Light fades. Sound softens. The cave seems to breathe, as though it remembers every life that once sheltered within its walls. Graham Cave is no ordinary rock shelter. It is one of the oldest known archaeological sites in Missouri, a place inhabited for thousands of years, long before the emergence of Cahokia, long before mastodons vanished from the landscape. Its stone ceiling arches over a floor of layered history. Each sediment deposits a page in an ancient and ongoing story. Archaeologists began excavating here in the mid-20th century, uncovering tools, hearths, and fragments of daily life left behind by early hunter-gatherers. Some of the oldest deposits suggest human presence as far back as 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, situating the cave within a pivotal transition period in North American prehistory. Here, nomadic groups paused in their journeys, taking shelter from storms, preparing food, shaping stone points, and carving out a life in the shifting post-Ice Age world. Among the most intriguing finds were the distinctive spear points now associated with the Graham Cave tradition, broad, expertly crafted weapons believed to have been used for hunting large game. Hearths filled with charred bone hint at meals shared during long, cold seasons. Layers of ash and sediment trace centuries of habitation. All of it paints a picture of resilience, adaptation, and continuity. But, as is often the case, the cave refuses to yield a simple narrative. Because amid these clear signs of daily life, other questions begin to surface. What drew early peoples to this specific cave? Was it merely shelter, or something more? Perhaps a gathering place, a ritual site, or a waypoint along migration routes lost to time. The artifacts alone tell us what they made, what they hunted, what they ate. They do not tell us what they believed. Mainstream research suggests that the cave's strategic location along what would one day become the Lutra River made it a natural oasis, a place of resources, protection, and seasonal opportunity. The stone walls and high ceiling provided safety. The surrounding valley offered game and plant life. For early Paleo-Indian and archaic peoples, Graham Cave may have been less a home and more a waypoint in a larger, mobile lifestyle. And yet, a cave like this stirs imagination. Some researchers have wondered whether its wide mouth and deep recesses served ceremonial purposes. Caves, after all, hold immense symbolic meaning in cultures around the world, often viewed as portals to the spirit world, places where the living could speak to ancestors or forces beyond understanding. No overt ritual objects have been confirmed at Graham Cave, but the absence of evidence is not the same as evidence of absence. Thousands of years of occupation leave behind a complex archaeological puzzle, one in which subtle signs can easily disappear. Then there are the more speculative questions. A few fringe theorists have suggested that the cave's unusually deep sediment layers and long occupation might hint at lost chapters of North American prehistory, perhaps involving migrations or cultural groups not yet identified. Others point to unusual rock formations within the cave, angles and grooves that some believe could be intentionally shaped or symbolic, though most geologists argue they are natural features, shaped by water and time. Even the artifacts inspire debate. The spear points found here differ from those discovered elsewhere in the region. Were they a local innovation, evidence of cultural exchange, or clues to a group whose identity has yet to be fully recognized? Standing within the cave, these questions seem to echo off the walls. The air is cool and still, thick with a sense of presence, as though the cave itself is aware of its role as a keeper of stories. The soft drip of water in distant chambers adds a rhythmic pulse, like the slow turning of a clock set to the cadence of geological ages. Outside, the forest continues on, alive with birdsong and shifting light. But inside Graham Cave, time feels suspended. The shadows deepen. The silence grows layered, as if shaped by the memories of countless generations. One cannot help but imagine the flicker of ancient firelight dancing across these walls, the soft murmur of voices speaking languages now forgotten, or the quiet footsteps of hunters returning from the valley below. Why did these early peoples choose this cave? And why did they return to it again and again? What stories did they pass on within these sheltered chambers? What fears? What wisdom? Archaeology offers fragments, scrapers, bone tools, spearheads, hearths. But the larger narrative remains elusive. Much of the site is still unexcavated. Much of its history lies buried, compacted, and compressed by millennia. And for all our scientific tools, carbon dating, soil analysis, artifact classification, some truths remain just beyond reach. As you step back toward the light, the cave's entrance becomes a threshold between two worlds, the known and the unknown, the present and the deep past. Graham Cave stands as a reminder that human history is not a straight line but a vast, winding labyrinth with passages still unexplored. And somewhere in the layers beneath your feet, in the sediments untouched by trowel or brush, something waits. Some artifact, some clue, some whisper of a life lived thousands of years ago. What might we find if we dig deeper? And what stories might still lie hidden in the darkness of Graham Cave, waiting for the right moment to emerge into the light? From the quiet darkness of Graham Cave, our journey rises back into the daylight, out of ancient chambers carved by time and into a landscape shaped by forces even older. Traveling south into the heart of the Ozarks, the terrain begins to swell. Rounded hills, steep ridges, and massive shoulders of exposed granite that push through the soil like the backs of sleeping titans. Here, at Elephant Rocks State Park, it is the land itself that becomes the mystery. And among these colossal boulders lies one of Missouri's most puzzling ancient structures, the stone fort. At first glance, Elephant Rocks is a surreal sight, an otherworldly field of pink granite monoliths, some weighing hundreds of tons, weathered into smooth, rounded shapes that truly resemble a herd of stone elephants frozen in place. Their surfaces glow faintly in the late afternoon sun, holding the warmth like living creatures. Wind whispers through narrow passages, and shadows stretch long between the rocks, as if hinting that this landscape remembers far more than it reveals. And perched among these giants is something wholly unexpected: a man-made stone wall. It winds across the granite outcrop in a rough yet deliberate pattern, large blocks stacked into a low barrier that follows the curve of the natural rock. Some sections are collapsed, others remain surprisingly intact. There are no inscriptions, no carvings, no markers. Just stone laid upon stone with a clear sense of purpose, but no clear explanation as to who built it or why. Archaeologists refer to it simply as the stone fort, though its original function remains unknown. Unlike the natural formations surrounding it, the wall shows unmistakable signs of human construction: aligned stones, consistent patterns, and the unmistakable logic of intentional placement. Yet it doesn't match the known building styles of indigenous cultures commonly associated with this region. It is not a platform mound, not an enclosure typical of Mississippian culture, nor does it resemble the stoneworks of later European settlers. It stands apart, literally and historically. Mainstream interpretations lean toward a practical explanation. Some scholars argue that the structure may not be as ancient as it appears, suggesting that 19th century settlers or miners could have built it as a boundary, a livestock pen, or a protective barrier. The region was rich in granite and iron ore, and industrial activity left its mark throughout the area. But this theory encounters problems. Many of the stones used in the wall are large, far larger than one would expect for a simple livestock enclosure. Their placement suggests considerable effort, far more than would typically be invested in a casual frontier structure. And crucially, parts of the wall appear older than the mining operations known to have occurred nearby. Weathering patterns hint at exposure long before industrial use reshaped the landscape. Other theories suggest that the stone fort might have served as a lookout or defensive structure for prehistoric peoples. From the high vantage point, the surrounding valley unfolds in all directions, an ideal position for monitoring movement or signaling warnings. But if it were defensive, why build only a partial wall? Why construct it atop granite where digging post holes or anchoring additional structures would be nearly impossible? And where are the artifacts, tools, pottery, organic remains that would normally accompany a site of prolonged occupation? These questions form the center of the mystery. At the edges of mainstream archaeology, more speculative ideas take shape. Some researchers have wondered whether the stone fort might be part of a larger tradition of enigmatic stone constructions found throughout the eastern United States, structures whose builders remain unknown, scattered from the Appalachians to the Ozarks. Could Graham Cave's ancient inhabitants, or even earlier Paleo-Indian groups, have constructed this feature for reasons now lost? The granite itself complicates the story. Elephant Rocks belongs to one of the oldest exposed rock formations in the Midwest, formed more than 1 billion years ago. This landscape predates humanity itself, and yet here we find evidence of human alteration atop it. Some fringe theorists suggest that the interplay between the massive natural stones and the constructed wall hints at symbolic or ceremonial purposes, perhaps something astronomical, spiritual, or even territorial. Others propose that the site may have been a gathering place, its natural grandeur lending itself to ritual or community events. After all, ancient peoples across the world often chose dramatic natural landscapes as focal points of cultural meaning. Did the builders of this wall see the elephants as sacred forms? Did they interpret these giant stones as landmarks of power, guides left by ancestral forces, or symbols woven into their mythology? Then there are even more unconventional ideas, speculations about long-lost cultures, early transcontinental visitors, or pre-Columbian travelers who may have left behind only fragments of their presence. These theories remain unproven, yet they persist, not because of concrete evidence, but because the stone fort resists easy classification. It does not fit neatly into any known cultural timeline, and so the imagination fills the void left by silence. Walking along the granite ridge, the air feels different, lighter, sharper. The ground is warm beneath the feet, the stone radiating heat gathered throughout the day. The wall appears suddenly, almost shyly, rising just a few feet from the surface. It is rough yet orderly, familiar yet alien. You run your hand along its edge and feel the grit of ancient granite, the subtle cooling of shaded stone, the unmistakable sensation that someone, long ago, placed it here with intention. But intention toward what? As the sun sets, the rocks turn copper and gold, and the stone fort seems to dissolve into the landscape. Its edges blend with natural fissures, its patterns mimic the randomness of weathered stone. For a moment, it is unclear where human hands end and nature begins. And that, perhaps, is the true heart of the mystery. Is this structure a forgotten relic of early humans, a practical creation of settlers, a ceremonial monument, or something else entirely? Something that defies the categories we try to impose? The elephant rocks stand silent. The wall remains unmoved, and the past waits, unhurried, holding its secrets within the spaces between these ancient stones. What purpose did the builders see in this place, and what truths might still lie concealed among the giants of Elephant Rocks? From the rugged granite of Elephant Rocks, our journey shifts from the open landscapes of Missouri's ancient past to a hidden world beneath the bustling streets of St. Louis, a city built on layers of history, commerce, and curiosity. While above ground the Mississippi glints in the sunlight, below lies a labyrinth few ever see, a network of tunnels, passages and forgotten chambers that twist and descend into darkness. These are the underground tunnels of St. Louis, places where history and mystery intersect, where every shadow seems to carry a story waiting to be told. The entrances are unassuming, small doorways tucked behind old warehouses, narrow staircases descending into brick-lined corridors, vents hidden in alleyways. Step inside, and the city above melts away. The air grows cooler, heavier, filled with the faint scent of damp stone and aged wood. Echoes bounce off walls that have seen centuries pass overhead, carrying whispers of voices long silenced. Each tunnel feels purposeful, deliberate, as though the builders knew something we have forgotten. Some sections are well documented, constructed in the 19th and early 20th centuries for practical reasons. Utility conduits, freight passageways, storage areas for breweries and markets, and tunnels connecting hotels and storefronts. These were bustling arteries beneath a growing city, enabling commerce, sheltering goods, and sometimes offering refuge. The engineering was precise. Brick and stone walls, vaulted ceilings, and drainage systems capable of withstanding seasonal flooding. Yet within this network are passages that defy explanation. Some tunnels do not appear on any city map. Some extend in directions that serve no apparent purpose, ending abruptly in solid rock or old stone walls. Sections contain structural anomalies, arches that seem far too grand for mere utility, niches carved into the walls with no apparent function, chambers whose size and design suggest gatherings of more than just a few workers. Historians acknowledge that not all subterranean construction in St. Louis was for commerce. During the city's early growth, rumors circulated of tunnels used for less visible purposes, escape routes during riots, passageways for secret societies, or even hiding places for bootleggers during Prohibition. Some suggest that beneath the cobblestones, civic leaders, wealthy merchants, and clandestine groups left a network meant to protect, conceal, or communicate without ever surfacing. The tunnels gained popular notoriety in the late 20th century as explorers, urban adventurers, and curious historians ventured into the underground. Accounts describe endless brick corridors stretching for blocks, intersections too precise to be coincidental, and chambers that seem far older than the 19th century constructions around them. Some tunnels appear to link historic sites in ways modern surveys struggle to explain, suggesting they may predate recorded city planning, or perhaps serve a purpose we no longer understand. Fringe theories abound. Some researchers speculate that the tunnels could have origins far older than the city itself, perhaps built atop or alongside pre-existing natural caves or fissures in the limestone bedrock that were expanded over generations. Could the original builders have incorporated these older spaces intentionally, following patterns or traditions now lost? Were these tunnels part of early secret societies or religious rites, long hidden beneath layers of commerce and time? Occasionally, explorers report anomalies, areas where walls seem impossibly smooth, as if sculpted rather than constructed. Corners that do not align with known city grids, sections where airflow carries a chilling stillness, almost as if the passage remembers events that occurred centuries ago. And then there are the stories of artifacts discovered, small trinkets, bottles, or objects buried deliberately, sometimes with no record of who left them or why. Some tunnels are said to have strange acoustics, carrying sound in unnatural ways. In certain chambers, voices echo as if amplified, yet no logical architecture accounts for it. Other explorers report feelings of unease, sudden drops in temperature, or a sense of being watched. Experiences that hint at the psychological power of subterranean spaces and the human mind's response to long, dark corridors. Despite decades of study, surveys, and exploration, the full extent of the tunnels remains unknown. Sections collapse, Others are sealed, and much of the system exists only in fragments recorded in maps, documents, and anecdotal accounts. Each discovery leads to more questions. Who originally designed these tunnels, and for what ultimate purpose? Were some of these spaces intentionally hidden, their significance known only to a select few? And if so, what knowledge, power, or secrets might have been exchanged beneath the city's streets, unseen by the world above? Walking through a preserved section of the tunnels today, one cannot help but feel the weight of time. The walls are cold and damp, carrying the faint scent of brick and mortar, water and earth. The ceilings arch overhead, echoing each step in ways both familiar and strange. Light filters in only through grates above, casting patterns that shift slowly as the day passes. Silence is pervasive, yet it is not empty. It feels as though the tunnels themselves are alive with memory. Above ground, St. Louis thrives, bustling with traffic, commerce, and conversation. But below, time flows differently. Centuries overlap. Human ambition, necessity, and curiosity converge in these hidden corridors. Here, the mundane and the extraordinary exist side by side, leaving the observer to wonder what has been preserved in shadow and stone. The mystery persists because much of the underground system is inaccessible, uncharted, or erased by modern construction. And so the tunnels beneath St. Louis remain a liminal space, suspended between known history and the unknown. They hint at human ingenuity, secret societies, and forgotten narratives, but the complete story remains elusive. What lies further down these corridors, in chambers not yet explored, beneath the streets and sidewalks above? Who walked these passages centuries ago, and why? And what secrets still slumber in the darkness, waiting for someone patient enough to uncover them? As we emerge from the shadows into the city above, the tunnels vanish from sight, leaving only questions, and the unsettling sense that beneath every modern city lies a hidden history, silent yet persistent, whispering of mysteries that no one has fully explained. From the shadowed labyrinth of St. Louis underground tunnels, our journey returns once more to the edges of the natural world, where darkness has been preserved not by brick and mortar, but by stone and silence. Heading south, away from city streets and into the rolling hills of southeastern Missouri, we arrive at one of the state's most enigmatic sites, Missouri Picture Cave. Here, the past is not only hidden, it is painted, etched, and layered onto walls that have witnessed centuries of human presence, yet whose meaning remains a profound mystery. The cave's entrance is unassuming, nestled among limestone bluffs and shaded by dense hardwood forest. A narrow passage leads inward, and as the light fades, the air grows cooler and heavier. The scent of damp earth and mineral-rich stone pervades the chamber. And then, slowly, the eye adjusts, revealing the first of the cave's remarkable features: walls covered with painted figures, geometric shapes, and symbolic motifs. Deep reds, ochres, and blacks mark the rock surface, preserved for centuries, yet pulsing with a vibrancy that makes them feel almost alive. Missouri Picture Cave is part of a larger system of limestone caves in the region, many of which were known and used by Native American groups for millennia. But few possess the extraordinary pictographs and petroglyphs found here. Researchers have identified hundreds of individual figures, human forms, animals, abstract patterns, and other symbols whose meanings are the subject of ongoing study. Some images appear ceremonial, others narrative, but the exact stories behind them remain elusive. Archaeological investigation indicates that the cave was actively used over a long period, perhaps spanning hundreds, even thousands of years. Radiocarbon dating of organic residues and associated artifacts suggests that the pictographs may have been created anywhere from the late woodland period to the Mississippian era, roughly 800 to 1,500 years ago. Such continuity hints at a site of great cultural importance, a place revisited by generations who left their mark on the stone. Yet, for all the scholarship, Missouri Picture Cave remains profoundly mysterious. Many of the symbols defy simple classification. Some appear to depict creatures that do not match known local fauna. Others combine human and animal elements in ways that suggest spiritual or symbolic significance beyond our understanding. The placement of figures is also unusual. Some occupy ceiling spaces, difficult to reach, implying that creating them required deliberate effort and perhaps specialized knowledge. Mainstream explanations suggest that the cave served as a ceremonial or ritual space for indigenous communities. Paintings may have been tied to hunting magic, spiritual practices, or storytelling traditions, an intimate connection between humans and the natural and supernatural worlds. This interpretation is grounded in ethnographic comparison with other Native American rock art traditions, and yet the specificity and complexity of the Missouri pictographs make them difficult to fully decode. Questions multiply when considering the scale and sophistication of the imagery. How did the artists achieve such vivid coloration and lasting adherence to rock surfaces? What tools, pigments, or techniques were employed in a world without modern chemistry? And perhaps most perplexing, why were some symbols deliberately obscured, painted over, or combined in sequences that seem coded, almost as if carrying layered meanings that only certain eyes could interpret? The cave has also been a source of controversy and intrigue in modern times. Early 20th century explorers documented and even removed some of the pictographs, creating gaps in the historical record. Today, access is restricted, both to protect the site and to preserve what remains, yet stories persist of secret chambers and additional artwork hidden deeper within, beyond what most researchers have ever seen. Could there be images or messages still waiting to be revealed, protected from human touch by darkness and inaccessibility? Fringe theories, while speculative, are part of the cave's mystique. Some enthusiasts suggest that the imagery encodes astronomical observations, maps of underground networks, or mythological narratives now lost to time. Others point to the seeming universality of certain motifs, spirals, handprints, and anthropomorphic figures, as evidence of connections between distant cultures or an unknown pre-Columbian tradition. While such ideas are far from proven, they endure because the cave resists easy interpretation, offering only tantalizing glimpses of knowledge deliberately concealed or forgotten. Walking through the cave today, the effect is immediate. The walls seem alive with memory, the pictographs illuminated by a single beam of light. Patterns that might appear simple at first take on a different character as the eye roams, revealing repetition, symmetry, and deliberate arrangement. There is a rhythm to the imagery, a cadence that feels purposeful. One cannot help but imagine the hands that painted these forms, the flickering firelight illuminating them, the ritual or intention that accompanied each brushstroke. And yet, for all the beauty and evidence, the cave does not surrender its secrets. Archaeologists can classify, date, and theorize, but the true purpose and meaning of the imagery remain just out of reach. It is a site where knowledge and mystery coexist, where every answer seems to raise another question. Why were these images created? Who were the people who painted them, and what did they hope to convey across generations? Were the pictographs a form of communication, a sacred narrative, or a portal to understanding forces now forgotten? And if so, what else might still lie hidden in the shadows of the cave, invisible to the casual observer? Missouri Picture Cave reminds us that history is not always written in stone, nor fully preserved in the artifacts we uncover. Sometimes it is whispered through symbols, left for us to interpret, or misinterpret, through centuries of silence. As we step back toward the forest, leaving the cool darkness behind, the cave lingers in the mind. It asks the quietest questions, ones that echo long after the passageway ends, urging us to wonder, to imagine, and to acknowledge that some mysteries remain deliberately, beautifully unresolved. What stories are still etched into those walls, unseen and unread? And what truths, long hidden beneath the earth and shadow, might yet emerge to challenge our understanding of Missouri's ancient past?